I'm doing a TV show called Sweet Tooth. So we're just doing the second series of that at the moment.
Tell me a bit about the series because I've not seen it.
Right. Well, it's about a hybrid boy named Gus who's born half deer, half human. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's a pandemic that's struck the world, and these hybrid children are the reason for the pandemic to have existed, or they're a cure for the pandemic.
And what role do you play?
I play a doctor who's looking for a cure.
Right, and without any plot spoilers, do you find it, or is that the quest that you're on?
Yeah, that's the quest. Yeah, I'm in the midst of that at the moment. So we're in the second series.
And what sort of reaction has it got?
It's quite good, yeah. Like for a little while there, it was kind of, so on Netflix they have the top 10, sort of 10 to 1 sort of thing, and it was number one for a little while, and people were really enjoying it. And yeah, so it's done pretty well.
How surprised are you by the roles that you're offered? Because it's a diverse set of roles, isn't it? At one point, you're playing a half-witted Muslim terrorist. Another, you're sort of playing a doctor, and another, you in this latest film, you've got this absolutely beautiful performance by you of this man who is going through a divorce. He can't talk about it to his family, and he's having an affair with a white woman. How surprised are you by the diversity of roles that you're offered?
Yeah, I mean, because it's been happening now for maybe for a few years. Like in the last couple of years, it's been pretty. I've been pretty lucky to play lots of different parts. But I always, even when I was back at drama school, I always thought like, well, why not? There's no reason why. I mean, just because people were sort of casting things in a particular way, and but I always just thought that that's my job. I'm an actor, and I can act lots of different parts, and I'm lucky that at a certain time, in certain parts of my career, there were people who saw that as well and were like encouraging of that. So yeah, I'm just really grateful to be doing it, really.
What does this say about the film that you've made, that we're now talking about things which would once have been considered taboo in the South Asian culture? Because the South Asian communities are close-knit. What does this film say about that? Are we more open to talking about mixed relationships, about divorces, about relationships being broken down?
Yeah, I think there's a certain sort of I think what it says is that we, in this sort of, I don't know, post-colonial sort of world that we're living in, that we can define the world that we want to live in. And that might mean leaning more into culture for some people. It might mean leaning away from culture. It might mean finding a way for things to coexist in a harmonious way, But I think it means for me, this film represents a way in which we can sort of take authorship or define the world that we want to live in. And it gives people space to think about that, I think.
Because we still are hidden. We still don't talk about certain subjects. We still have, I mean, one of the role that you won the BAFTA for was about an honor killing where you play the dad, and then eventually, spoiler alert, you took your own life. We still have these hang-ups, do we not? How much do you think that we as communities really need to sort of open up and start facing what the realities are and own it?
Sure. I think if we're talking about something like Murder by My Father, it did bring up a lot of interesting questions about the motivation for that character to behave in the way that he did. And it sort of, I suppose it depends on your perspective of how you saw him. Like, you could see him as a man. You could see him as somebody who felt the cultural pressures. You could see him as somebody who was religious. You could see him as a father. You could see as a man that was just completely lost to himself. You see somebody who's in need of help. So, and then the conversation is, well, you see his humanity, or you don't see his humanity. You see what makes him human or doesn't make him human. So, I think that's the thing that, in amongst questions of sort of cultural representation and race and ethnicity and religion and stuff like that, I think we're more in a position now to see things in a nuanced way, in a complicated way. So yeah, I sort of feel that if we are, I don't think it's sort of like, it feels like an easy argument or an easy conversation to have. Well, that's just ascribed to that culture in that situation. I think now, more so now than we have in the past, we're able to see culture in a sort of quite complicated and nuanced way. And so we should, we should be afforded the right to be seen in the entirety of who we are, as opposed to just being one, belong to one culture, one ethnicity.
How much do you believe that shows a growth in confidence since our parents arrived to the UK? British-born Asians are here. We've inculcated into the communities of Great Britain. How much does that show the confidence of growth in our communities?
Yeah, I think but do you know what? I think it was always there. It was just whether we were going to pay attention to it. So, for
we never
example,
brought it out, did we? We never brought it out. We hid it, and
sure,
therefore the majority community didn't know a lot about us, and
yeah,
suddenly they're realizing that we're just like them.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first turned on the TV when I was really young, and when, it was, when I was looking at things like Buddha of Suburbia and sort of the Hanif Qureshi stuff, and then Bargy on the Beach would come on and stuff like that. And I looked at those stories being told, and you could say that those people were a part of a particular cultural tradition or cultural heritage. But what came through to me was the humanity of those characters. So those stories were always being told. Those stories have been told and were always being told. I think now we're sort of commanding people's attention a little bit more and sort of saying, well, we want you to pay more attention to it. We want you to really look at what it means to be a British Asian, because it's not just steeped in culture, it's not just steeped in race, it's steeped in, what music that person listens to. Looking at Ali and Ava, the film, what music that person listens to, like what profession he has, what relationship he has to that, all the things, the entirety of what it is to be human. And I sort of think we're looking at that more now than we ever have done in the past. We're sort of afforded that privilege more now than we ever have done.
One of the things that I'm acutely aware of, I was speaking to Mira Sayal last year. You say you've been given some fantastic roles over the last couple of years, but there are South Asian actors who still feel that they're not offered the roles because there's almost an institutional racism in the industry. BAFTA certainly recognises that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel that you are getting the roles that you deserve?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you wouldn't know if so the life of an actor is essentially knowing that they can play a particular role and waiting for that opportunity to play that role. So as an actor, you're consistently frustrated because you're like, well, I want to be doing that, and I'm not being afforded the right to do that. But then wrapped up in an extra complication in that is the appetite for people to see you play that particular role, like to see you play the everyman or whatever else. And I feel now that we're on the cusp of that happening. I feel like we're in that moment of change where we can look at maybe myself, but I more so look at other people or whatever, like Dev Patel or Riz Ahmed, and they go, yeah, I think I could see him in that, and I'm seeing him in that role. I'm actually seeing him in that role, and suddenly you realize the questions of like culture and race and everything become less important. Actually, I think maybe it's more so that I'm looking forward to the point where we don't have to talk about the, we don't have to talk about it. We can just sort of see somebody play a particular role and we go, I think that will be the sort of magical point that we would really feel accepted, where there's no question. It's just, you just accept what you're presented with.
Right. So I'm your fairy godmother. I know I don't look like it, but I am. What
Yeah.
role would you love to play? What's the acting role that you would love to play?
I think this process with Clio, doing this film, has taught me that I just don't know. But what I do know is that when something resonates with me and I'm sort of in a position to feel like that's an opportunity for me to sort of step into, I sort of know what that is. But actually, to know the role, I think, is a bit sort of prescriptive, because I don't know, I think we're just living in such an exciting time where the opportunity, I can't really fathom it, really. I didn't know, I really didn't think that, again, talking about Riz, that you'd have an Asian fellow in the cover of Time magazine, for example. I didn't know that there would be Asian guys nominated for Oscar, and myself, I'm nominated for. This is like, we're sort of living in a place now where, if you talk to my parents or your parents, it was like that'd be tantamount to magic almost. It's like, how can that? So I mean, I'm just sort of going, I really don't know what the role would be. I just know when it's there, I'll grab at the opportunity to do it.
Final question, because your people are telling me to wrap up. It's this: you're a South Asian. You're hugely proud of being South Asian. You studied law. You could have gone into that, followed your father. Fantastic achievements. What would you tell your 16-year-old self if you had a conversation with him?
I'd probably say that if people are giving you advice, they're giving you advice from a good place, because they want you to succeed and do well, whether that's your parents or whoever, or like anybody who's older than you. But that's just their way of doing it. It doesn't make it the right way of doing it for you. It might be the right way for you to follow somebody's advice like that or whatever, but it might not be. And to give yourself space to think critically about the advice you're given.
And that suggests that you didn't always take the advice, that you're your own man.
No, what I did do, my dad told me, he wanted me to do law, and I did do law. So there was a lot of my life where I did take the advice of my dad. And then there was a point where I was going, eventually I just couldn't, I just knew I wouldn't be a good lawyer. It would be so terrible if somebody hired me as a lawyer, because I'd just be so bad at it. I can't retain any information or anything. So there's a point at which you sort of then step into the thing that you think you would be good at. And that was acting.
Well, you're a brilliant actor. Good luck with break a leg. I'm not allowed to wish you good luck, so break a leg on the BAFTAs, and you're up against some august company, but you've done it before, so good luck. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Cheers for the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.